and Pakistan, a neighboring country of India. If you look at the map, we are quite present in Europe and quite present in Asia and the Pacific area with 63 laboratories. And there are a lot of laboratories in India. So a lot of you guys from India know a lot about ISTA. And there's also a workshop going on in the American seat. I think it's the 8th workshop they're doing in India in a short time. But if you look at Africa, we have 19 members, and I think that's an area not only because it is underrepresented by the number, we have to grow, and we have to do something to help Africa to join the ISTA family in a lot of ways. And what we can offer and what the benefits of ISTA are, I would like to show you. In the moment, this is our structure. The executive committee is the governing body outside the annual meeting, and you see here representatives from a number of countries. This slide is only true for the next 5 days. On the 2nd of July we will have new elections. Only 2 positions will, or 2 people will stay. That's our Vice President Steve Jones, who will become president, and our current president from New Zealand, Greg McGill, who will become immediate past president. You know that all continents are represented here, and I hope we will have again 2 people from Asia at least, and at least 1 person from Africa to be present on our executive committee. Below that is my position as Secretary General, looking over the secretariat, the daily work, and the technical committees in a way. I told you about the structure as well on the government governance. It is not that easy as it looks in the first moment. You have to be a personal member of ISTA, and then by designating by your country, you could become a designated voting member. That is, as we are an association, you have to be a member to be able to vote, but most governments have own members, own personal members inside ISTA, and they are asking these members to vote. And we operate on a one country, one vote system. ISTA itself is having 4 pillars, I would say, which are important for the association. On the top you can see our reporting scheme. That's the international standardization of reporting results of C testing. On the right side you see there an orange international certificate, a little copy of it. That is the most important certificate. Orange certificates always include sampling and testing. So what Professor Hon'ble identified 150 years ago is verified in these certificates. On the right-hand side you see the international standardization of methodology. Those are the ISTA rules and handbooks in a way. And ISTA rules are the Bible of C testing. They are changed and adopted every year. So this year again, the annual meeting will vote on changes, and these changes will be published in 4 languages now. It's English, French, German, and Spanish. And they are valid from the 1st of January the following year, being available to all members the 1st of December this year. The bottom part is international standardization of lab performance. That is our accreditation system and our proficiency test system. I will talk a little bit later about that. And the dissemination of knowledge on the left-hand side is very important for ISTA as well. I will give you some information on that. Oh, sorry, that was too quick. ISTA has about 20 technical committees if you also count the editorial board of our newspaper and the Seed Science and Advisory Group into it. You see every area of seed tested is covered here: bulking and sampling, flower seeds, forest seeds, germination, moisture, purity, variety, seed storage, tetrazolium. And these technical committees, they work on the changes of the ISTA rules. They are doing all the tiny little gritty work behind the scenes to allow ISTA to be effective in its work. They are also doing the validation of the methods. Everything which is in the rules is validated, and they issue the validation reports, which are published every year in our news bulletin, the Seed Test International. These are around 270 seed technologists and scientists all around the globe. And there's another key figure: around 200 seed professionals receive training yearly in ISTA workshops. Just two floors up from us, there's the pre-Congress workshop going on, organized by Dr. Jagadish. And a few of the people were here in the morning to the opening ceremony as well. Publications: we talked about the rules, published in 4 languages. Handbooks: the new handbooks are now available only online. We try to avoid paper copies anymore. The only thing where we have paper copies is our news bulletin, which we are sending out twice a year, and that is in addition also available on our website seedtest.org as an online version. Science publication is our journal Seed Science and Technology, which now, since beginning of last year, is only available as an online magazine. We had reducing number of people who bought this journal, so we decided to put it online, that everybody who likes to read the articles is able to access them. And what is new since March this year, we started to renew our ISTA reference list for seed as a pathway of pests. We have now 7 crops on it, and at the end of the year it should be more than 65 crops published where seed could be a pathway or not, depending on the pest. Very helpful and on time for the International Year of Plant Health 2020. The accreditation system started actually in 1996. There's a 3-year cycle for the accreditation audits. A few of you are interested in that, and my colleague Florina Palada, who is head of the accreditation and technical department at ISTA, is available here in Hyderabad since a few days until the end of the meeting, and you could contact her on any details. We perform about 50 audits, and 30 of them are done by full-time employees and 20 by external auditors. I'm very happy to announce that we have now also an auditor located in Africa, James Kefas Oganda from Kenya, and he had his first trainings and finished them, and probably you will meet him when your lab is accredited in Africa also as an auditor. Proficiency tests are the tests which labs who are accredited have to do to show in between the audits that they are working properly. You see here the audit plan on the right hand side for 2017 to 2019. the new audit plan will be presented during this meeting here in Hyderabad. That is for the standard PTs, where we do 3 per year. GMO, acid health, and DNA, it's 1 every year. It's mandatory for all accredited laboratories to take part in these tests. Others can volunteer. And this accreditation ends up in the orange certificates, which can be issued, or blue if it is seed mixtures or seed samples not sampled by an ISTA sampler. And more than 200,000 certificates are issued globally every year for seed traveling abroad. That's why we call the orange international certificate also the passport of a seed. I'm always asked, what are the relevances, what are the benefits for governments and other stakeholders of ISTA? Now, as I mentioned, ISTA is a government-driven organization. The voting rights, which means also the influence, is with the designated authorities. It's on the ISTA rules, it's on the accreditation program, it's on the executive committee, and on the membership fees. These things are all fixed by the annual meeting. Further relevance, you will find that global uniformity in seed testing and reporting, as defined 1924 by the 26 countries founding ISTA, was important and is still important. High quality seeds are the first step to high and reliable yields in the world. I think we heard that before as well, but repetition is good sometimes, and it's true. If you start wrong, you end wrong. And it is even more important in a changing environment when we talk about global warming, when we talk about other things. Change of climate, less use of pesticides, and so on. You need to have the right seeds for this purpose. And during the ISTA Congress, where we welcome most of you, I think, in the symposium you will hear more about that. There are scientific lectures about these topics. Last not least, for a government, it is also important that there's food security and international acceptance. Now, farmers. What are the benefits for the farmers? You have controlled seeds. You have seeds of a controlled quality following international standards. Again, high quality seeds are important for farmers to have reliable yields. They can see that they have security in germination, vigor, which will come to a security in the right yield of their crops. Food security, again, important. ISTA is also important for the seed industry. It is not an accident that FSI and now ISF and ISTA were founded at the same time, at the same location. For the seed industry, it is important that their seed is qualified and controlled by international standards, especially in a growing world, or if you want to say in a shrinking world, because things are moving over borders more often than before. Global uniformity of seed testing and reporting is the key. That is security for the seed industry when it comes to seed trade. ISTA certificates are seed passports. If you have them and they have the right values, which the countries accept, they can pass borders. Food security, again, because also the seed industry is working not only for their profit but also for food security. Industry members could also participate in rule changes and on new technologies within ISTA technical committees. So they can have an influence in that area as well. Seed laboratories. I come from a laboratory background, and I know how important it is that you have clear rules you can follow. Nothing is worse than wishy-washy rules, which you can one interprets like that and the other interprets like that. Then you never get the same results out of it. Clear rules are always good, not only for children, but also inside laboratories. Global uniformity means my results can be compared. If they are done in India, or if they are done in Europe, if they are done in South America, if they are done in Africa. I can compare myself as well during the PT tests with other laboratories around the world. Accreditation program and workshops. I will invite you again, also from Africa. We are doing a lot of workshops in India, so I don't worry about India. Dr. Jagadish is very active there. But on Africa, please come to ISTA, say what you want as a workshop, as a training in your country. We will open it, of course, to other countries as well. There should be normally no cost occurring than just hosting the event for us. And seed laboratories can and they do very much participate in rule changes and new technologies when it comes to membership in technical committees. Now, how can a country benefit from this? First of all, you need to become a member. Membership is with the national laboratories. So if the national laboratory becomes a member, you can, as an authority or as a government, designate an authority to ISTA. That is not costing anything except the membership of the laboratory, of course. Then you can nominate a designated voting member. You can participate actively in annual meetings and ordinary general meetings. And last not least, the laboratory, of course, can become an ISTA accredited laboratory. I would like to close with that and focus on the number of collaborations ISTA has. Among others, ISTA is also having a memorandum of understanding with FAO, and I can tell you one thing: every month we have a telephone call together, my colleague at FAO, and we keep ourselves updated on what is happening. But as you see, we are also working with other areas, the OECD seed schemes, where we have programs together, ISF, UPOF, last not least also the World Farmers Organization, which is important. They are the users of the seeds afterwards. So they are an important player in the area where we operate. I would like to thank you very much for your attention. You may
provided my opening comments. I wasn't supposed to be here. The Assistant Director General, Agriculture and Consumer Protection, was supposed to come here, but because of the ongoing FAO conference, I was delegated to attend. And one of the instructions that he gave was that I should make sure that my intervention should, as much as possible, go beyond seeds and sit with seeds and the workshop that you're having within the wider context of the efforts to attain food security and nutrition. And that instruction, not that I had much of a choice though, but I think it is apt because you are going to be interacting quite a lot, just as evidence from Andrea's presentation on the theme of seeds. However, seeds do not exist in isolation, and that is why I would rather then take a step back and situate the theme of seeds within the wider context of the imperative of crops and varieties. I lead the Seeds and Plant Genetic Resources team at the Food and Agriculture Organization. So in a manner of speaking, we are responsible for the crop improvement theme of the work of the Food and Agriculture Organization. We belong to the Plant Production and Protection Division. I will devote some time to say what we do in that division. Now, something that's been alluded to quite a bit today is the Sustainable Development Goals. So, whatever we are doing in the international development context at the national level, the yardstick for measuring progress that we are making is are the 17 goals of the Agenda 2030. We are well aware that our work is most relevant to the second goal, which is zero hunger, eradicating hunger on planet Earth in the next 11 years. However, depending on how you parse it, all the other 16 goals also are linked to the efforts to eradicate hunger. For instance, you couldn't have individuals that are not poor and yet abide hunger. So they are all basically interlinked. Life below water, the life in the seas are also part of the menu of our diet. So we are all working together internationally, at the national level, and across different sectors. The government, that is the public sector, the private sector, civil society, grassroots organization, academia. The products of all these different sectors come together to drive the global efforts to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, regarding hunger, when we are talking about eradicating hunger from the face of planet Earth in the next 11 years, how grave is the problem we are trying to address? There are many studies on this. However, could we get this back up again? The presentation. I'm sure people don't want to look at me. They'd rather see the presentations on the boards. Anyway. Is there a pointer in this actually? Does it have a lesser pointer? Could you show me? This is the pointer. The lesser. Huh?
This is next.
Yes, the pointer. The lesser. Okay, never mind. I'm not sure we could get So actually, there are still parts of the world where over 35% of the population are chronically hungry. So the tasks in front of us, the tasks that are before us are not insignificant. And some of the countries or where you have such populations are represented in this room today. So when we talk about seeds as means to improve productivities, it's not an abstraction. We are talking about that because there is real human misery of hunger that requires addressing. So we at the Food and Agriculture Organization, as I had indicated, our mandate, what we work towards, is a world without hunger. However, it is an indication of the enormity of the tasks that over 800 million, I think more precisely, the latest statistics suggest we have about 820 million people, which, in a manner of speaking, is 1 in every 9 persons on planet Earth suffers from hunger. And that is in spite of all our technological advancements. So, as if that's, the statistics are not daunting enough, our global population continues to increase. Climate change has become a reality. We have several other socio-economic pressures, like all the strifes that we have in different parts of the world, all the social upheavals, and the natural resources are inelastic. It is for a reason that the government of Telangana is funding or is subsidizing access to water resources. There is really not redundant supply of water resources to go around. And depending on who you ask, the most modest of estimates is that we need to produce 60% more food, with the 2006 figures as the baseline. So this basically is a report, is a recent report from the Future Earth Institute, indicating that extreme weather events that are happening now, drought, flooding, the melting of the glacier, can now definitively be ascribed to climate change. So the time was when we talked about climate change in terms of models, in terms of forecasts of what would happen in the future. Climate change is now with us. Climate change is a reality. And one of the tools for addressing climate change is access to quality seeds and planting materials of well-adapted crop varieties. And the underlying principle of FAO's work in addressing the scourge of hunger, malnutrition, and poverty is that for the world's poor, adapting to climate change and ensuring food security and nutrition go hand in hand. And the nature-based solutions to addressing climate change, the most potent of them is the kind of seeds that will bear true fidelity to the genetic potentials of the varieties that have been bred to address the particular biotic or abiotic stresses that are driven by climate change. At FAO, we are a knowledge-based organization, and one of the things that we have become quite adept at doing, using both our normative mechanisms and the technical interventions within the countries is the development of tools, the development of resources. We have repositories for several things that member countries, development partners can leverage in addressing whatever constraints are in the way of their country's efforts to achieve food security and nutrition. And something that we have come up with recently is the Climate Smart Agriculture Source Book. There is a dedicated website where the different modules can be downloaded gratis. I'm sorry I didn't put up the link here, but one can find it basically by using whatever search engine Climate Smart Agriculture Source Book file. So to reiterate, one may just say, okay, sorry, this is messed up a bit. One can then say, why are we having all this conversation? Why don't we just produce more food? Well, as I had mentioned earlier, the natural resources that underpin agriculture, water, arable lands, are not redundant. They are not inelastic. They are not elastic. In fact, they are inelastic. And the costs for external inputs are prohibitive, both in terms of damage to the environment and also for the resource-poor farmers in developing countries of the world that cannot afford the added costs of these external inputs. So, how then might we produce sufficiently more food to feed an ever-growing population in spite of climate change without further damage to the environment? The answer is that harnessing the genetic potentials of our crops would be one way to achieve that. Of course, we are not in any way saying that agronomics are not important, but that they will go hand in hand. Genetic gains through plant breeding would be one way, with the quality seeds and planting materials being the vehicle for translating whatever is bred into the varieties to enhance productivities on farmers' fields. So, in the plant production and protection division, where the team that I lead is one of the 6 teams, our mantra is that we are working with countries to enable farmers transition to sustainable crop production and intensification in response to climate change, in response to all the other drivers that we are talking about. And however, this transition is not happening through just one mechanism. Rather, it will be the end result of several factors that we can roughly divide into plant production and plant protection, with crops and varieties being just one of the ways. So basically, what I'm trying to say through this slide is, yes, we need these quality seeds and planting materials, but we need to bear in mind that they do not exist in isolation. They do not happen magically. There is a process to developing the quality seeds and planting materials. So, our colleagues that are participating in this workshop, when you go home, it is also important that you see yourselves as part of a community of practice of crop improvement or crop production or protection, where your own interventions complements the interventions of other disciplines to achieve this goal of transitioning to sustainable crop production in spite of climate change, in spite of an ever increasing population. One other publication that we have is Save and Grow. This is a policymaker's guide on transitioning to sustainable production systems. Chapter 4 of Save and Grow is crops and varieties. So this is just a matter of emphasis, but then there are chapters dedicated to the other themes as well. So for crop improvement, I do like this publication by Tester and Langdrich in Science in 2010. So we say we need to produce 60% more food. What people are going to say by 2050, what people readily say is there has always been a linear increase in food production since the statistics, collecting the statistics, say way back in 1960. However, what these gentlemen, these colleagues were able to do using the three main cereals, rice, maize, and wheat, was to indicate that to achieve this 60% more food by the year 2050, we need to move the trend line of the increase by a factor of 32%. So we need to move from the blue trend line to the red trend line. So productivity needs to be enhanced. Once again, underscoring that business as usual will not achieve this for us. And by way of emphasis, how can we move this trend line from blue to red? Exploiting the heritable variations in our crops and using quality seeds and planting materials. Where are those heritable variations? Who need to access this heritable variation can find them. The international community, using FAO's convening ability since 1952, has been developing mechanisms for ensuring that plant genetic resources for food and agriculture are seen and treated as de facto global commonwealth. And the examples of things that have been done in this regard include the International Plant Protection Convention, the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Global Plan of Action on Plant Genetic Resources, and the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources, which I imagine that everybody in this room is familiar with. It came into force in 2001 in response, actually, to the fact that the CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity, seemed to be constraining rather than facilitating a cross-border exchange of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. There is, of course, the Global Crop Diversity Trust and the second Global Plan of Action, which my team led its review from the 1996 version that was done in Leipzig, Germany. And basically, what the second Global Plan of Action is about is underpinned by 18 priority activities. And part of that is sustainable use. Sustainable use of plant genetic resources encompasses the direct use by farmers and their use by plant breeders, by scientists to deliver superior crop varieties which get to the farmers through effective seed delivery mechanisms. Now, what you might be now coming to terms with is that I'm talking about a broad range of things that are interlinked. And I want to use this slide to underscore that. I have talked about the imperative of conserving the diversity that underpin our crops. These could be crop-wide relatives that are conserved in nature. These could be breeding materials. These could be whatever germplasm that we have ex situ in our gene banks. I've also talked about improvement, harnessing the potentials, bringing to fore the potentials that are encoded in the genetic blueprint of these materials. And we talked about, of course, the raison d'etre for us to be here, which is seed delivery, assuring the quality of the seeds that gets to farmers. Now, while it is convenient to present these three as individual modules, it is ineffective to treat them as such. The conservation of plant genetic resources, for it to be meaningful, so that they are not mere museums, the materials that are conserved need to be accessible to plant breeders and scientists in a way that they can use them to discover new gene alleles, to introgress traits into breeding materials. So they must be useful. And after these superior varieties are bred, there has to be a way to get them to the farmers. And the way to achieve that is an effective seed delivery system. If you use the most elegant of science to breed crop varieties, to breed the best types of varieties, and they do not get to the farmers who need them, then it might as well have been any other intellectual exercise. However, what are we finding in countries? We are finding in countries that the colleagues working in the conservation of genetic resources, some of the time have no relationships at all with those that work in plant breeding. And you have plant breeders who also do not relate with the seed sector. So a plant breeder registers a variety which by law should be supported by the production of breeder seeds, and that doesn't happen. Or there is no cross-fertilization of ideas between the seed sector and the plant breeders in order to ensure that the traits that farmers require are incorporated into the varieties. And we invest significant efforts to repair these breaks in something that is supposed to be a continuum. And as you go back home, this is something that I would urge you also to bear in mind, to foster these linkages across these three different modules. And we at FAO, something that we have developed recently is the so-called seeds toolkit. We recommend this highly. The English modules are already available online. They can be downloaded gratis. In a few weeks' time, we should have the Spanish and the French versions uploaded also, so colleagues who need them can download them. It runs through the entire gamut of the seed value chain, from the development of small enterprises through processing, seed quality assurance, regulations, marketing, storage, and a bit on working on legislations. And again, I thought I should put this up. If you were wondering whether your presence here means something, please know that the world is watching. And a very eloquent way for demonstrating it is the award of the 2019 Nobel Prize for Food and Agriculture. This is the equivalent of the Nobel in the area of food and agriculture to this gentleman, Mr. Groot, that spent a lifetime helping the development of seed enterprises in different countries of the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is a personal pleasure to have been able to come here and to interact with you. I wish you well. We are available to continue to grow this conversation. What the government of Telangana has started is unique, is novel, but is one that FAO welcomes as an opportunity to replicate the unarguable significant strides that India has made. Maybe 40 years ago, Indian farmers suffered the same constraints regarding access to quality seeds as the farmers from a number of the countries in this room. So I have a personal belief that these success stories that have been aptly enumerated at length this morning, that they are replicable. They are replicable in other developing countries, and that as we all strive to achieve the sustainable development goals, that this could be one way, to help countries in their efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chikeluba. May I request Dr. Keshavalu to present a memento to both the speakers.
Before presenting